What if the very procedures meant to make celebrities more beautiful ended up destroying the faces that made them famous? Behind the red carpets, camera flashes, and flawless photos lies a darker story Hollywood rarely wants to admit. Some stars chased youth, perfection, and relevance, only to end up unrecognizable. Today, we're uncovering the most shocking celebrity plastic surgery disasters, the painful mistakes, devastating consequences, and heartbreaking transformations that prove beauty can come at a terrifying cost. Carol Bryan's story is one of the most chilling reminders that even a routine beauty treatment can spiral into a life-altering nightmare. In 2009, at 47 years old, she made a decision that countless women have made before her. She wanted to soften the signs of aging, smooth a few wrinkles, and restore a fresher, more youthful version of herself. It sounded simple. It sounded safe. But what happened next changed her life forever. During the procedure, filler substances, including silicone, were injected into her face. Almost immediately, everything began to go wrong. Her face became severely swollen, distorted, and painfully inflamed. What was supposed to be a quick cosmetic enhancement turned into a devastating medical crisis. But the most tragic consequence was far worse than the damage to her appearance. The injections interfered with blood flow near her optic nerve, and Carol permanently lost vision in one eye. The physical pain was only part of the ordeal. Emotionally, the trauma was overwhelming. As complications worsened, she withdrew from public life and faced years of uncertainty, fear, and repeated medical interventions. Eventually, specialists at UCLA performed reconstructive surgeries to remove the dangerous material and repair some of the damage. Those procedures brought improvement, but they could not undo everything that had been taken from her. Today, Carol Bryan lives with the lasting effects of that decision. And that is what makes her story so powerful. It is not just about beauty gone wrong, it is about how one seemingly minor procedure can leave permanent scars, permanent loss, and a permanent lesson that no one should ignore. Lin May's story is one of the most disturbing examples of how a single beauty decision can leave permanent damage that no surgery can ever fully erase. In the 1970s, she was one of Mexico's most dazzling entertainers, admired for her charisma, glamour, and striking natural beauty. She had the kind of presence that could light up a stage instantly. But like so many women in the public eye, Lin eventually faced the relentless pressure to stay youthful in an industry that rarely forgives aging. Hoping to preserve the beauty that had helped define her career, Lin agreed to facial injections that were supposed to enhance her cheekbones. Instead, according to her own account, she was injected with unsafe substances, reportedly including paraffin oil and other non-medical materials. What followed was not a small complication or a temporary cosmetic mistake. It was the beginning of a life-changing nightmare. Her face soon became swollen, inflamed, and painfully distorted. Over time, the material hardened beneath her skin, causing lasting tissue damage and permanently altering her appearance. Multiple procedures were later performed in attempts to correct the damage, but the substances could not be fully removed. The transformation was irreversible. What makes Lin May's story so haunting is that it reflects a fear shared by so many women in entertainment. The fear of losing beauty, relevance, and the identity the world first fell in love with. But her experience is more than a tragic celebrity story. It is a warning. When unsafe treatments are placed in the hands of unqualified people, the consequences can last a lifetime. And sometimes the face you were trying to preserve is the very thing you lose forever. Pete Burns was never the kind of star who blended into the background. As the flamboyant frontman of Dead or Alive, he became one of the most unforgettable faces of the 1980s, known for his bold style, androgynous beauty, and fearless refusal to look like anyone else. Long before social media turned appearance into a daily obsession, Pete had already made image part of his identity. But over time, that obsession with transformation began to take a devastating toll. What started as a relatively simple attempt to refine his nose slowly evolved into a years-long cycle of cosmetic procedures. Pete underwent lip augmentations, cheek implants, facial reshaping, and multiple corrective surgeries, all in pursuit of a look that matched the version of himself he wanted the world to see. He spoke openly about these procedures, almost defiantly, as if changing his face was an extension of his artistry. But behind that confidence was a growing physical cost. Complications began to pile up. Infections, botched surgeries, and painful recovery periods became part of his reality. One of the most serious lip procedures left him dealing with months of suffering and reconstructive work. By then, the search for perfection no longer looked glamorous. It looked exhausting, painful, and impossible to control. What makes Pete Burns' story so haunting is that it sits at the intersection of fame, identity, and self-image. This was not simply vanity. It was something deeper, more personal, and ultimately more dangerous. His transformation fascinated the public, but it also revealed a harsh truth. When the face becomes a lifelong project, the line between self-expression and self-destruction can disappear before anyone realizes it. Donatella Versace has never looked like anyone else, and that may be exactly the point. Long before her face became a subject of global fascination, she was already one of the most powerful women in fashion, a woman whose image was as bold and unmistakable as the brand she helped shape. With her platinum blonde hair, dramatic features, and unapologetic glamour, Donatella turned herself into a living symbol of the Versace world. But over the years, that striking image evolved into something far more extreme, and the public never stopped watching. As cosmetic enhancements became part of her visual identity, Donatella's face changed in ways that sparked endless commentary. Botox, fillers, skin treatments, and other procedures gradually contributed to an appearance so transformed that it became almost inseparable from her legend. Critics saw excess. Headlines saw spectacle. But Donatella never seemed interested in apologizing for the choices she made. If anything, she embraced them with the same fearless attitude that defined her work in fashion. What makes her story so compelling is that it is not framed by regret in the way so many others are. After the murder of her brother Gianni Versace in 1997, Donatella stepped into one of the most difficult roles in fashion history and carried the house forward under unimaginable pressure. In that sense, her appearance became more than personal. It became armor, performance, identity, and survival all at once. That is why Donatella Versace's transformation continues to fascinate people. It is not simply a story about beauty procedures. It is about power, image, and the human desire to define yourself before the world does it for you. And in her case, that definition was always meant to be unforgettable. Stalking Kat's story is unlike any other on this list, because it was never simply about beauty in the traditional sense. Born Dennis Avner, he lived an ordinary life for years before beginning one of the most extreme body transformations the world had ever seen. He served in the U.S. Navy, worked as a computer technician, and for a long time appeared to live far from spectacle. But beneath that ordinary surface was a growing belief that his physical form did not reflect his inner identity. And once that belief took hold, his life changed forever. According to Avner, his transformation was deeply tied to spirituality and ancestry. He believed he was meant to follow what he described as his tiger spirit, not as performance, but as truth. What began with tattooed stripes across his body soon escalated into a radical reconstruction of his face and body. He underwent subdermal facial implants, rhinoplasty to flatten the nose, reshaping of the ears, silicone whisker implants, and specially altered teeth to create the fanged appearance of a feline predator. Slowly, deliberately, he transformed himself into the image he believed reflected who he truly was. To the public, stalking Cat became a spectacle. He appeared on television, shocked audiences, and became one of the most recognizable figures in extreme body modification culture. But what makes his story so haunting is that behind the fascination was a deeply personal search for identity. His transformation forces an uncomfortable question. Where is the line between self-expression and self-erasure? In his case, that line became almost impossible to see, leaving behind a story that remains as unsettling as it is unforgettable. April Michelle Brown's story is one of the most horrifying reminders that a cosmetic shortcut can turn into a life-altering catastrophe in a matter of moments. In 2004, she wanted something that the beauty industry had convinced countless women to want: fuller curves, a more dramatic silhouette, and the confidence that was supposed to come with it. It sounded simple. It sounded fast. It sounded worth the risk. But what happened next would destroy the life she knew forever. Hoping to enhance her buttocks, April turned to an unlicensed individual who injected her with industrial-grade silicone, a substance never meant to be placed inside the human body. Almost immediately, her body began reacting in terrifying ways. Severe infections developed and spread rapidly through her tissues and bloodstream, turning a cosmetic decision into a brutal medical emergency. What should have been a so-called beauty treatment became a fight for survival. Over the years, April endured 27 surgeries as doctors desperately tried to remove the silicone and stop the damage from spreading. But the infection was relentless. The destruction inside her body became so extensive that in order to save her life, surgeons were ultimately forced to amputate both of her arms and both of her legs. It is almost impossible to process the scale of that loss, especially when it began with a procedure meant to improve her appearance. And yet, April's story does not end in tragedy alone. What makes it unforgettable is her resilience. She learned to live with prosthetic limbs, rebuilt her life piece by piece, and chose to speak publicly so others would understand the danger of illegal cosmetic procedures. Her story is devastating, but it is also a warning no one should ever ignore. Heidi Montag's transformation became one of the most talked-about plastic surgery stories in modern celebrity culture, not just because of how dramatic it was, but because of how young she was when it happened. At only 23, Heidi was already famous from The Hills, a reality star living in the center of America's obsession with beauty, fame, and reinvention. She was glamorous, recognizable, and constantly in the spotlight. But in 2009, she made a decision that would turn her into a national symbol of how far cosmetic pressure can push someone. In a single day, Heidi underwent 10 cosmetic procedures. The list was staggering: a brow lift, Botox, revision rhinoplasty, cheek fat injections, chin reduction, neck liposuction, ear pinning, a second breast augmentation, body liposuction, and a buttock augmentation. It was the kind of extreme transformation that immediately shocked the public. To many people, it did not look like confidence. It looked like a young woman being consumed by impossible standards. What made Heidi's story especially powerful was what came after the headlines. She later admitted that the surgeries left her with serious emotional and physical consequences, including pain, long recoveries, and visible scarring. The dream of becoming more perfect did not bring peace. Instead, it left her confronting the reality of what her body had been put through. That is why Heidi Montag's story still resonates. It is not just a tale of celebrity excess. It is a warning about what happens when fame, insecurity, and the promise of perfection collide. And sometimes, the most lasting damage is not what the public sees, but what a person is left carrying long after the cameras move on. These stories are more than shocking celebrity headlines. They are reminders that beauty can come with risks far greater than most people ever imagine. Behind every dramatic transformation is a real person living with the consequences. If this video made you think differently about beauty, pressure, and perfection, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more stories like this.